We should just... What's up, Hi, Pasquale. I'm Haig.
You're Wade?
I'm Haig. That's Wade.
We got you. Trust up for me. Look at
Got that? Huh?
Ready to go.
Go.
Taking care of business.
I got to get my bag.
Let's go get your bag.
We're ready for you.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Well, you're here for the same reason I am. I suppose whether we know what each other's reasons are for not. I personally, I just want to know how to surf to the best of my ability. And I know that the more I understand what it is that we get to play with every day, the more I can be at home within myself in order to create that place for myself and for others, just to serve each other. And so we have the honor and the privilege to have Pasquale here, and I won't mess around with too much small talk. So everyone take a nice deep breath. Pasquale Saracen.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. I consider it a pleasure. Consider it a pleasure so many young people want to know. Want to know about chiropractic. Sorry to tell you what you get out there, what you get not so far away from here, is a far cry from what chiropractic really is. Now last month, on the 24th of June, I celebrated my 60th year in chiropractic. So, I tell you this not because I like to boast, but I tell you this to let you recognize that I've been around a bit and I've seen many things happen. And what's happening in this wonderful calling, which I consider the last frontier for the salvation of the human race, has really taken many steps backwards. But there were a few of us who refused to go back, and so we kept going forward. And this forwardness means that chiropractic will have the forefront. But before we understand what all this is about, we must recognize what is chiropractic. Now, many of us get a definition. It's the vertebra that's not in position with the one above or the one below. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't so, but there's something even more basic than this that makes this vertebra not being in position with the one above or one below. And these are the things we have to look for. But we don't have to go far. All we have to do is take up the Master's book. And our Master, our Father, is D.D. Palmer. Now, I'm not saying that other people that followed D.D. didn't do a good job. They did. But it was D.D. who gave us chiropractic. And he makes it very clear that chiropractic, the basic principle of chiropractic is tone. Now please understand that. This is chiropractic, and it was up to us to find out what did this mean. The old man, D.D., didn't know, but he left it up to us to explore it. Now how did he get this? You must read his book, or his two books that he left us. One is The Chiropractic Adjuster, better known as The Science and Philosophy of Chiropractic, and the other one is The Chiropractor. And in both these books, you will read, if you read carefully, that he received this chiropractic from another, a spirit entity. So you see, we are not mundane. We are not earthly. We are from a higher realm. And because of this, we must recognize who we are, what we are, and what's our duty. First, our duty is to understand ourselves, because being ourselves is being chiropractic. Now where in heavens is that one tone? Not outside of us, inside of us. So we in chiropractic today, it's for a small group that has pushed forward, look at ourselves at the crowning creation. We may not be able to perform the crowning creations yet, but we're on that road. And this is what chiropractic is about, to bring out our full potential. Now we talk about from the brain going down. Does anybody in here know how much the brain functions? Who knows? Raise your hand, please tell me.
A lot.
What's a lot? A lot outside?
10%.
7% of its potential. Where is the other 97 or 93%? 7% of its potential. Now we only had 7% of electricity coming through here. How much light will we have?
Very low.
Even though, very dim, very dim. Oh, it's high time we start looking for the light. At least the old timers, of which I am the last of the old timers, used to say, turn on the light. You ever hear the expression? Turn on the light. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. There is a difference between innate and the light. And that light, whether we like the name or not, is called the spirit. The difference between innate and the spirit is that the spirit is a very fine light. And the finer the light gets, the more intelligent it is. Now I'm not talking about a universe outside. I'm talking about the universe within each one of us. The universe outside, hold on, is nothing but an image of us. Nothing but an image of us. Think of it. There couldn't be a universe out there if it weren't for us. There couldn't be. So this puts us in a different position, in a different light. A light at its finer than you could ever think. And this is the light. You can play with your hands. It will never burn you. Matter of fact, it will keep you whole. Sound, tone, sound. Now before I go any further, let me tell you something about myself. See, I've whet your appetites now, so you're anxious. And that's the way to do it. I'm a salesman, but not for your pocketbook. To get you stirred up inside so you can look for yourself and recognize who you are. You are the crowning creation. And this is what I want. Nothing else. If I can do that, if I can get that idea into your heads, I've done my job. That trip from Brooklyn to here would be nothing but a blur. Now, I was born September the 11th, in that day of infamy, 1911. So when those two towers came down, I was 90 years old. But in 1914, as I was born from two young parents, my mother had only 4 years of education. Even though she was born in America, this is all she had. My father, born in Italy, had no education at all. And they decided that they're going to give me an education. And I was the first of that big brood, 8 children that they had. So when I was 3 years old, 1914, and that was the first day of infamy because that's when the First World War broke out. I was vaccinated, and about a week and a half after the vaccination, I came down with a fever. And in those days, people didn't get too excited when their kids had a fever. They knew what to do. And they kept doing, but I never got over it. So they became alarmed and called in the doctor. And when the doctor saw me, and I was lying this way, that arch, he asked my mother, was this child vaccinated lately? And she said, yeah, about 3 weeks ago. And he examined me and told my mother the child has spinal meningitis due to the vaccination. Those days the doctors were somewhat honest. But they came and they stayed with you. They did the best they could, but they told, see? And many of them were not in favor of having vaccinations, but they were forced to see that the kids had them. Later on, as the economy changed, then your doctors changed. So, I couldn't live. That was his prognosis. But as you can tell, I'm headstrong. I didn't want to leave. I had a job to do for some reason. And I did live, but living was just existing. One week out of every month, I would go into high fevers. And when I did, I was in an awful mental anxiety, didn't know where I was at. And when I would come out of them, I would pray. I was brought up very religiously. I would pray. Show me the way to get well, and I will devote my life to that way. Well, I was shown the way, and somewhere, I believe, 1934, I was introduced to Bill Werner. Most of you maybe heard of him, who was a great chiropractor, and I got well. But not after an adjustment, not after 2, after 3 adjustments a week for 4 long years. Because I was walking this way. This is the way I walked. But I got well. Take a look. Take a look. Now, just to be a little sarcastic, where the hell would I be if we had insurance those days? All he gets is 7 visits. Where would I be? Just think of it. Where would I be? Maybe still here, but in this chair, sitting down, just about understanding what's going on. Don't you see what happened to us? For the sake of not working hard, for the sake of making money, without labor. I became a chiropractor, and I went to a little school in Manhattan. And that school was called the Eastern Chiropractic Institute. In Manhattan and all the state of New York, we couldn't say school, chiropractic school was outlawed. We couldn't say college, that was outlawed. But the best we could do, call it an institute. And some people really thought it was an institution. They're the nutties one. But that little school taught me chiropractic. I knew what chiropractic could all do, because it was done on me. And if it could be done on me, such a crippled, distorted person, why can't it do it for others? And this was my attitude. And when I graduated, the second day of infamy happened. I was conscripted to the Second World War. Now, talk about, where was that? Somebody, listen. Talk about disappointments. So the war took me all the way to Okinawa. But I made the best of it. I started adjusting people. I didn't need a damn stripe to adjust people or their permission. I just did it. What the hell could they do to me? Throw me out of the Navy? That would have been fine. They never did. Matter of fact, the officers themselves came to me. And I adjusted people all the way to Okinawa. Now, I was in the Navy. In Okinawa, we had the Marines. The Marines have no medical corps. I was in the medical corps, and I served with the Marines on Okinawa. And when I would find a Marine on the ground, not shot, just lying there and all wet, urine just pouring out. Then I knew he had what they call battle fatigue. In the First World War we called it shell shock, which means that the noise was so intense from the bombs that it went into the ears, went through that whole neural system and dilated the whole aorta. Now we had artificial plasma to give them. So I figured, why the hell should I give them that? Let me experiment. And I did. And I would adjust them. And they come out. And I would say, hold on, where's your... And I look for the canteen. Now all I know is they lost fluid. I give them a canteen, drink this up. I go looking around for the poor, unfortunate Marines that were killed. I would take their canteens, give it to them. Drink all this water and wait. And I will put the rifle this way for the stretchers to come around and pick them up. They got well. They got well. Look at the power of chiropractic. Because I would follow them up. You stayed on the field so long, then they give you a couple of days off. And I would go down to the base hospitals and look for these guys and, how you feeling? I'm fine. Hey, are you? Yeah, I'm the corpsman. They call me corpsman. Yeah, I'm the corpsman. Oh, I'm fine, Doc. Thank you, thank you. Only for that poor guy to go back, probably get killed, but he was fine. You never know what chiropractic can do until you try. Now, a few months ago, I was at New Beginnings, and they had a president of 2 schools down there called Dr. Cleveland, Carl Cleveland. And he showed some pictures, given the history of his colleges, 2 of them, and how his father and his grandfather started this whole thing. I want you to listen carefully. He shows some stills about the college. Then he showed a woman who was dressed in the early 1900s. And he said, this woman had diabetes, and her leg was completely gangrenous, and they were going to cut it off surgically, but they decided not to because it was too dangerous. So they sent her home. And when she was home, a friend of ours asked her, did you try a chiropractor? She said, I don't even know what that is. But a chiropractor was brought in. So he looked at this woman, recognized the severity of it, adjusted the woman, and told the woman, I will have to be here 2 hours from now, and 2 hours after that, and every 2 hours I will be in your home to take care of you, which he did, or she did. I don't know who the chiropractor is, but I'm going to try to find out. She got better. Now look, listen carefully. All this chiropractor knew that there was something in that body that was preventing this person from getting well. And he knew where to go. And he took care of it. No evaluations. No, you belong to a medical doctor. Nothing like that. And she did get well. And she became so enthusiastic that she went to the Palmer School. And in her studies, she met Carl Cleveland. And they married. And they opened up the first Cleveland schools. And then his son took over. And then his son's son, or his grandson. And this man is boasting, I'm the third generation. He has a right to boast. But does he have a right to boast? Listen to what he said. And I'm going to go after him one day when I get him. Today, the chiropractors are better off than they ever have been. What do you think?
I think.
What do you think, young man? You bet your life. If you go like that, I'm gonna. Who today would go into a home and see this woman completely gangrenous, diabetic, and take the case? Who? Show me. Good for you. I'm happy. I'm happy. This is what we did. Now why don't we do it today? Why? Because we were a menace to the pharmaceutical homes and the medical association. They knew that we knew and that we could get results where they couldn't. They don't care that you get well or not. All they care is they got a method, and this is what they're going to force on you, even if it kills you. Now remember, it's strong words, but take it from somebody who's been around for a while. I've seen many people go into a hospital just for a checkup and came out feet first. You know what that means? Well, dead. So you see, you're in a calling that's far greater than anything else. Innate comes from here, right here. Innate, behind that navel. The navel is I'm going to show you something. Everybody see that? Navel, nave plus L. L is the goddess. Nave comes from the Latin navor, navare, meaning to be energized. Nothing ever happens without a reason. And who gives us the energy, so to speak? Who gives us that living property? The soul. Navel, here. But this soul has no savior. Has no savior. Eh? Got it? I'll put it down. Has no savior. In other words, we have to die. Spring, summer, autumn, better fall, and winter. And again, spring, summer, fall, and everything that ever grew in these first three seasons fall and become disintegrated as those leaves out there will fall. They'll turn yellow, orange, different colors, and we admire them. You know what we're admiring? The dying leaves. Dead. Now I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but we have to know what we're aware of. Oh. And that goes with us. But we have larger seasons than 3 months. So when we're born, which is after 9 months, 270 days, we're born in the winter season. And this is why the old European people, and probably the Asiatic people, would always say, don't take your children out for the first 3 months. Don't let anyone handle the child unless the child is handled by someone in a very intimate family. They were very strict. Because for the first 3 months, that child is in a winter season, struggling to live, and it's still the same. And I go to seminars to talk, and in the audience I see mothers who have just given birth with a child of maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Personally, I think it should not be done. That's my feeling. And I have the reason for it. The child is in its winter season. Is this the real reason for crib deaths? Huh? They haven't found out yet, have they? Child. And also, they get vaccinated before time, before they even have an immune system. You know there is no immune system until 9 months later. If not, these are the things we should know. So how can we think about putting some viral injection into this child that hasn't the ability to kill antibodies? Well, you see, there's a lot of wrong things going on. And we, the chiropractors, told the mothers not to have their children vaccinated. We were bold. And you know what? If we weren't so bold, I don't think any of us would be here tonight. Remember that. You left me.
Everything.
He knows. We had to understand, and we understood the simple laws of nature. Spring is to sow. Summer is for fruition. Autumn, not fall, autumn is to gather the fruit. And a child is born in the autumn season. When a child, sperm and egg come together, that's the spring. And we know, we call that the fetus. Later on, in the summer, we call it the embryo. and it remains the embryo until it is gathered out, comes out. Now, isn't that so easy to understand instead of all that bull crap you get in school? Yeah. Learn what they teach you in school, but put this with it. This is the practical part of it. The other one is something else. See that diagram up there? They call that the dimensional man. That's not the dimensional man. That's the particle man. A man you can take apart, whether it be a male or female. Particle. A dimensional man cannot be taken apart, which we'll talk about later. See how rich we are? This is what we're working with at the moment. We want to get to the dimensional man, the whole man, man in toto. Man means male or female. And when we can work from there as the starting point, then we have it made. And this is what we're about, because it is in there where we get the one tone. And that one tone permeates throughout the whole body, but we don't have it. Now you go to an orchestra or a concert, and we say they have 30 or 40 instruments there. And the first thing you hear is they're all fiddling around with their instruments, and then the concert master comes out, whether it be a male or female. And if it's a piano, they bum, they hit the A note, and everybody tunes up to that note. Every organ in our body should tune up to a note, to a tone, the basic tone. And then we should have a leader, a conductor, that keeps his whole body in balance. Now I've given you a lot in a few minutes, but eventually I will give you just where these pieces are. Now we all know that the brain is the upper part. And if I say brain cell to tissue cell, how much is that cell going to function? Now, anybody know? I've given you the answer before. 7%. 7%. Good for you. That's all. That's all. Are we sick? We bet we're sick. Needs more light. Now look at this way. Everybody see it? What does sub mean? Somebody? Less. Inferior. What is lux? It's a Latin word. Light. And this word here is clipped. It should have an N on it. Every vertebra, did I make it right? Yeah. Every vertebra is a nation. And every vertebra, whether it is in position with the one above or one below, is a subluxation, because it doesn't carry all the light. So how can we be well? This is what subluxation means to me. Does it interfere with the neural system? Maybe, maybe not. And if it does, it takes no precedent over this definition. You follow? Because if this definition, as I gave it to you, didn't exist, there'd be no homo. Get it? There'd be none. This has to be what I told you now. Less light, inferior light. Now this is the way I ran my practice for 34 years. I looked at subluxation as something didn't have enough light. And of course, I didn't know what was causing the cause, as we call it. And I kept looking and looking. And I read books. And I had books on this and that, neurology, osteology. Oh, I read them. I even read books of the old masters. I read biology from the old masters, where they looked at the sperm with the homunculus in it. You know, the small man. Oh, I've read everything. No answers. And I wanted answers. And I was teaching at Columbia, which became the New York School eventually. And one day a student came to me and said, "I'd like to talk to you." I said, "Go ahead." And he told me he had a woman in the clinic. I thought he needed some help. He said, "No, it's nothing like that." And she told me that I have a favorite instructor, and I said, "Yes, it's Dr. Saraswati." And she said, "Well, you tell him if he wants to get in touch with his spiritual teachers, I will do so for him." She was a spiritualist or medium, whatever the hell you want to call it. Now, I wasn't in spiritualism. I knew nothing about it. And I'm desperate. So what do? I did it. So I met her. And on March 17, 1968, I never forget the date, she sat down, and out came some words. "Well, well, well, what can we do for you?" I said, "I want to know more, better, so I can assist my people better." Oh, they said, "How wonderfully said, how wonderfully said." Yes, I made contact, and I still have contact. And this is what they taught me, how to take words apart and look into them, because they told me that these long words are strangulated. They lose their exact meaning. Subluxation is 3 words put together, and we give it a cock and bull story meaning. But all it means is what we see there. So I got it from a higher source. Do I still have that contact? Oh yeah, I'll never lose it. All of you can have it. Now, I've asked questions, and this is one of the questions I've asked. I wanted to know, how do I know where this subluxation is? They said, well, what you do, even though you don't recognize it, you are comparing that spine with your spine. I said, all right. Now all of a sudden, bingo, another light came. I said, suppose that person has a fourth dorsal subluxation, and I have one. How can I tell? You follow? They said, because you're doing God's work. We're right next to you every time you serve people. And when you serve people, we have the ability of making your spinal column perfect. Oh, I know. But look. You know, I've calculated it. I've given out maybe 1.5 million so-called adjustments. And if it took only 1 minute, right? And if I was perfect just for that 1 minute, take a look. Huh? Did it pay off? I want you all the same. I need you. As they need us, I need you to go out and tell this whole world about chiropractic, not about a pain in the back, not about insurance, not about a stiff neck, but about chiropractic. It is the way to advance to the spiritual realm. I hope I made myself clear. And if I come down to just this, and if this is all you get, you know what you got? It took me almost 32 years to recognize what I just showed you. Slowly but surely. And I call that the UHK. That's the University of Hard Knocks. Do I have a degree? Not up there, but I am higher in degree inside. See? I don't have to show it out here. I'm inside, higher. So I think I'll give you a couple of minutes so you can get up off those bumps of yours, and we'll come back.
Yeah, right.
I think I'll use this portion for questions. Okay. Tomorrow night, we'll go through this whole thing very thoroughly. But before we do that, I think there are certain things maybe you would like to know. So, go ahead. You have to speak loudly.
All right, how's that?
That's fine.
All right. So before, when you were talking about how the seasons work relative to childbirthing,
That was fine?
when children should be born,
Yeah.
saying they should be born in fall, correct? Or in autumn, rather.
Yeah.
But and following the patterns of nature. But if I'm not wrong, unless I'm wrong, aren't most natural processes aren't like new birthings happening in spring? And if so, then how does that relate to us?
I don't get it. Louder.
Oh,
Loud and clear.
Metaphorically.
all right. Forget it.
The answer's on question. That's what I want. You get your own answer. Anybody
Oh,
else?
what that?
Why is the subluxation always located in the vertebra and not somewhere else in the body?
Subluxation, or the spinal column, better the vertebral column, because the spine is a thorn in your side. See, thoughts are things, and thoughts are words, and words become. That's why I still have my office, and I rent it, all completed, but there is not a sign or picture of any distance. I want people to think correctly. The subluxation is in the vertebral column, but it's really the spinal column because it's thorn on our side, because it is the tree of life. And the tree of life doesn't have the light. Now, do you know anything about raising fruit as a farmer or an orchard? I'll tell you. When a farmer wants a new tree, we say apples. He doesn't buy an apple tree, he just buys the root stock. No branches. So he takes branches, or she takes branches, off the branches that gave the good fruit, and grafts them into that rootstock. Okay? Now, that rootstock can also have not only a branch of an apple, but also a branch of a peach and a pear and any other fruit you think of. Why? Because the spirit that travels through that trunk or the tree of life is one. It never varies. And it is at the grafting where you see a knob. And it is in that knob where the seeds are for the pear, for the peach, for the apple, or for anything else. So, the spirit that runs up and down, that will run up and down your tree of life, will be no different than my spirit. It is one. All right? See, become a farmer too. And incidentally, that's what Georgia means, the farms. And George means the farmer. The pharmaceutical houses. Fun. Not a fun, it's the truth. Because pharmaceutical houses at one time didn't use drugs as they do today. What did they use? Herbs. Okay?
What is the cause of subluxation?
Huh? It has less light.
The cause.
The cause? Tomorrow night. You'll get, that's a good question, tomorrow night. But you say you're thinking, and that's wonderful. Wonderful. Your question?
You said to locate the subluxation, we have to compare the spine of our patient to our spine.
If you have your entities there, yeah, they'll help you. And you'll know, you get the feeling, this is it, and you don't question it. You never question the answer from the Spirit. In the book of Daniel, in the book of Revelation, it says, do not add one word or take one word away. In other words, don't reason with it. Whatever answer you get, that's it. But when you monkey around with it in plain English, then you're not going to get what you're asking for. Come on.
I've heard it before. I want to really ingrain it. Can you elaborate on tick?
What?
Chiropractic. Chiropractic. Tick.
Yeah.
What is tick?
The tick? If you had a big grandfather clock here, what would you hear?
Tick tock.
Tick tock. Tick tock. That's the tone. Tick tock. Ebb, flow. Ebb, flow. You go down the seashore, which you don't have here, and you see the tide coming in. So when the tide is the highest it can be, and you put your feet there, and you like to stand there, and a couple hours later, you see that the tide is out there. And I will tell you tomorrow night what causes that ebb and flow. Ebb and flow. Okay?
Is there a distinction?
Ask the question and issue.
Is there a distinction between soul, innate, and spirit? And is there an evolution?
Now you're asking questions that I gave you something before and I didn't give these kids here. Shame on you. Tomorrow night. Yes, ma'am.
What's the most important thing that you, in your mind, when you put your hands on somebody?
Oh, good question. What do I think of?
Yeah.
Zero. Nothing.
Right.
Right? I don't think it's got to go this way or that way. Then I'm mechanical. I'm not spiritual. Got it?
Yeah.
Leave it alone. That is just put your mind in ground zero, and that again you'll get tomorrow night what ground zero really means.
Okay.
Okay?
Correlated question, and nothing's in your mind, what's in your heart?
What was
Are you feeling something?
Is zero in your mind? What is in your heart?
When you
When
do
you
that?
adjust,
Yeah.
what is in your heart?
What is in my heart? Absolutely nothing. Then you because if I do think of something, I'm going to interfere with the power that does the healing. The hardest thing to do is do nothing. Think of it. The hardest thing to do is do nothing.
When you adjust, are you always looking for cavitation? When you adjust, are you always looking for noise to make sure it
Do you look for noise?
I just sense. I don't even have to, many years, I didn't even have to do this. I just sensed it. And went.
You guys,
Pasquale, what's the first thing you did when you got out of the military? How did you build your practice? How did you get the people coming in? Or did you do anything? You just let them come?
I got noticed when I was in that place, Okinawa, and there were no bombs flying around, I was just lying down, sitting down, lying across, the back was a tree, and I would just go. And I would seem to get into some sort of a zero, and then I saw what I wanted. And I saw the crowds that I wanted. But sometimes I wish I didn't wish so much. But that's the way I did it. No marketing. And no marketing will understand what I'm telling you. But this is the only way. It costs you nothing.
Pasquale.
Yeah.
I was,
my question is, when you went to that reading the first time, and your spirit guides came in and told you the truth, what was it in you that allowed those changes to formulate in your life and in your practice?
When you met the spirits for the first time, what was in you that allowed for you to formulate the growth and to accept and to grow without understanding of the spirits?
Because I searched, and I got nothing. At that moment, that day, March 17th, 1968, I got words that I was looking for in books. So what do you expect me to do, throw it away?
how do you have nothing in your mind? Like for you, what do you do to have nothing when you put your hands on somebody?
How do I do it?
Yeah, from your experience, how do you
You want to know how I get into a blank state?
Yeah.
I'll tell you how. Most people sit down and watch their belly buttons, don't they, to get that way? I watch somebody else's belly button, and I get that way. Wanna watch mine?
How come when you were serving people you had men in one room and women in the other, and not together?
Because there are certain things that women like to talk among themselves, and they don't want the men to hear it. Especially when they went out last night and they were supposed to go someplace, you know, over here. And the men the same way, so I kept them separately. Now, because men would talk about their own illnesses, which they probably would not like to speak in front of women, and a woman the same way. You follow? Yeah. Now, you know, we could have some light side in chiropractic in practice. And you have to, even though you work, and it's a love, but it's also a joy. So you make it a joy as much as you possibly can. Now one night, that I remember was a Monday night, this man come in, and he said, you know, I'm here not because I believe in you, but because my best friend told me to come to you. I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to argue with him. I got too many people to take care of. So what brings you here? He said, I have epididymitis. You know, for those who don't know what that means, the testicle or part of it is inflamed. So I looked at him. I said, okay, get on the table. and I took care of him. See? Now, you have to learn with whom you can play jokes with and with whom you can't. And you have to learn when people tell you the truth or they're hiding the truth. Now, one night, about 4 or 5 adjustments later, this fellow came in, and I could see he had a little grin. So I took care of him, and when he got up, I said, "You're feeling better, huh?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "So your testicle is better, huh?" "Oh," he said to me, "you really understand about epididymitis?" You know what I said to him? He came, and it must have been my spirits that gave it to me. This is what came. I said, "You have no idea what we chiropractors know. We're really on the ball." This guy got angry. Now, for those of you who've been in my building has steel structures. You know? This is the way I want it built. And guy went out and slammed the door, and my whole building shook, even with the structure as it is. I said to myself, well, I lost him. You listening? I lost him, so I lost him. Had to be. But anyway, 2 days later, he came in again. Well, I'm jumping ahead. So I called the next patient in, and while I'm taking care of him, I heard a big roar in the men's room, where they rushed and undressed and so forth. So the patient was up on the table, looked up at me, said, "What's that all about?" I said, "I don't know." He went, and the next one come in, and he's laughing. He said, "You really told that guy off, didn't you?" I said, "What happened?" And he told me, and we told him, look, don't let his quietness deceive you. He hasn't got time to talk to you. But if you want to talk to him, go to his meetings. I had play meetings once a month. So 2 days later, when I have my office at night, he walked in again. I thought he was gone. So he looked at me, he smiled, put his hand out, and of course I shook it. He said, "You win, Doc, you win." And this guy sent me so many people. You never know. But it could be a lot of joy. Just leave it alone and let it flow. Okay. Yes, sir.
You mentioned in one of your stories that the lady with the diabetes and the leg problem or whatever, that the doctor adjusted her every 3 hours.
Yeah.
Or came to take care of her every 3 hours.
Every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours. Well, I'm not studying chiropractic, so I don't know the answer to this. Some of you may. Would you do that only in extreme cases, or can you adjust whenever?
No, I would do that when it's necessary. When it's necessary.
So you can't overstimulate your body with adjustments?
Depends how you adjust them there. If you come down with a sledgehammer, yeah. So learn how to adjust always. And there are certain times where you'll need a particular way of doing things. Follow me? That reminds me, after the war, we had a polio epidemic. And a woman came in, it was about 5 or 6 years after the war, after I got into my new building. Woman came in with her child, and the child, you could see, you don't have to be a magician, it was coming on. So I had a small room with a cot in it, and I told her, I said, look, you'll have to stay here for the day. Yeah, I'll do anything you say. So I adjusted that child every hour until she went home that night. So the next She came in, she was better, and the third day it was all over. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Get your guitar out and play it. Don't be afraid, don't. Yes?
Do you think a chiropractic adjustment from a chiropractor that's coming from spirit has the same effect as an adjustment from a chiropractor that just believes in back pain, neck pain, and that's all he's affecting?
I have to say no. I have to say no. Because some of the things that happened in my office, I was more amazed than the people that happened. Who was at New Beginning? Who saw the film that I showed with that little Tommy, the autistic child? Who saw it? Huh? Now, I don't adjust kids, but I'll be with you in a minute. I don't adjust anybody. But this chiropractor who has this autistic child came to me and begged me to take care of his child. Now, after 5 years, this child is far better. And the part that's in that film, it's enough to make anyone feel. The joy is when Mrs. Bracco, the mother of the child, said that one day little Tommy went to her, put his arms around her and said, "Mommy, I love you." Now, nobody can take this joy away from me, remember. They can torture me, they can do what they want, but this is mine. This is mine. You got a question? Yeah. And you should have that joy. Yeah. But look at your yellow pages. Backache. Accidents. Chiropractic is a way of making people have a sweeter life. And let me tell you, like to hear some of my cases?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes, please.
Okay. Now, I'm not telling you this because I want you to think I'm boasting. I'm just telling you it because it's chiropractic. And I couldn't do it unless the chiropractic came out of me. This man came in and he was sad, and I asked him, you see this again, learning how to read people, I asked him, "Bill, you look very sad tonight." Oh, he said, "My sister has cancer and she's in terrible pain. And no matter what drugs we give her, there's no relief." Now in those days, people weren't shoved into a nursing home as they are today. They bought themselves or rented a hospital bed and kept them there. So as he was going out, he turned around, he said, "Dr. Pat, would you come up and see my sister?" I said, "Surely." So we made the arrangement, and I was there, and I looked at her. She was no more than 75, 80 pounds, nothing but skin and bone. So I said, "Bill, before I do anything here, I like to wash my hands." It was an excuse to get him on the side. I said, "Please show me the bathroom." And he brought me. I said, "Come here, I want to ask you, what do you expect of me?" Okay? I didn't go up there that she's going to live. He said, "Look, if you can make her comfortable, I'll be very grateful." I said, "Well, Bill, you know what I do, and we can try." He said, "Please do." He said, "I was afraid to ask you. You might say no, you won't do it." I said, "I'll do it, provided we understand each other." He said, "Yes." I went over, I turned this poor woman over, and I did what I had to do. And I said, "I'll be back tomorrow," and tomorrow, and 3 days later, when I knocked at the door, Bill opened the door, and he had a smile. He said, she slept all night, and this morning she doesn't even want to take the drugs. So I went there 3 times a week for 9 months. She never had to take drugs, she never had any more pains, but the cancer kept going on, until one day he called me saying, my sister died during the night. All right? Did I do wrong or did I do right? Isn't it your duty to assist people so they're comfortable? Isn't it? But the CCE can't see that, can they? Bastards, that's all they are. That's all they are. Okay. Any more? Yes.
When you're giving service to people, it's good to have an exchange between them. So in chiropractors usually say, okay, you pay a fee, or sometimes people like to bring food or something. How did you, in your office, deal with the exchange of people? Like when you went to the hospital, did you ask for anything, or you just gave chiropractic?
I gave chiropractic. Let me tell you another case. Had a priest come in from the parish in the community where I live. He had something wrong with his shoulder. He said, I hear you could take care of this. Okay, get on the table and let's take care. And I said, come back 2 days from now. They said, oh, by the way, I see a lot of my parishioners here. I said, I didn't know that. They said, why are they coming here? You know what I said? Young man, if I see someone coming out of the confessional box, would you they confess to you? I said, that's just as important, just as private to me and those people that I don't tell them. If they want to tell you, that's another story. But don't expect me to tell you any more than I expect you to tell me what the people confess to you. See, I put them on the spot. Getting rich, you know? But he came in 2 days later, and he said, you know, I spoke to the parishioners, and they told me why they were coming here. He said, shouldn't they be going to a medical man for what they're coming here? I said, young fella, they are medical rejects. What the hell is the sense of sending them back? So he looked at me. You know, I really got annoyed with him. So, a couple of days later, he came back. Now, I put some sense in this guy. First place, I don't tell him, and he doesn't tell me about people going into his black hole there, and neither do I tell him about the adjusting table. But he was feeling better. He said, I can't understand how these people can get better without medicine. The ultimate, I asked him, do you believe in God? What kind of a question is that? I said, it's a legitimate question. And I tell you why. He said, yeah, tell me. Because if you believed in God, then you will believe that God made us complete. And when we're not well, there's something wrong inside of us, and this is what the chiropractor does. Takes care of what's wrong, and then that God force heals the person. And I tell him with the pressure on the nerve, jabbed him with his own. He came back. He said, you know, I'm feeling better. So he come back several times later, He said, you know, I want to pay you. I said, see the receptionist. So he came back again. He said, the receptionist won't take any money. Did she tell you why? She said, yeah, because you don't charge clergy people. I said, that's right, regardless of who they are. I don't charge them. He said, well, I want to do something for you. So I said, what can I get you? I said, look, I know what I need, and I haven't got the time to go and buy it. He said, what is it? I said, I have many Bibles, different translations, but I don't have a Catholic Bible. Oh, he said, I'll get you one. And he did. And we remained the best of friends. Don't let these people, you know, don't go on a defense. Get on your defense. I'm a tough guy. But now I'm not that way. Unless I have to.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What effect do you think the CCE's adding physical therapy into chiropractic education, what effect do you think that has on chiropractic's future?
What do I think? I didn't get the list.
The physical therapy?
What do you think of physical therapy
Yeah.
that the CCE is adding into chiropractic
Yeah.
education? What do you think the effect is going to be on chiropractic in the future?
Well, the people that get in school today don't have the experiences that most of us who went to a chiropractic school had. I had experience. I know what chiropractic was before I went to the school. I just went to school to be a chiropractor. What effect? Horrible. And I resent, you can tell anyone you like, I resent anyone coming under the chiropractic umbrella. This is not an umbrella for all people. It's an umbrella for the chiropractors alone. You got it?
How can we defend that?
Now, one more story, and then I think we can kind of fold the thing together. This is the one that really gives me the goosebumps. That's a joy I have. This mother walked in with her 1-year-old child, Mary. And this child was like a rag doll. And the mother told me that when she was 9 months old, she had an ear infection. They gave her a drug. She went into shock, and this is it. So the mother also told me that the MDs told her to institutionalize her child because there was absolutely nothing that anybody can do. But this woman, the old Italian woman, she said, I am not going to do it. If God sent me this cross, I'm going to bear it. That's what she said. And she said, can you help? And I explained, if there's a spark of life in this child, there's some hope of some improvement. Well, she said, please. So I took care of the child. Now this is going on for about 3 months. And child, put her on a table, you put her on the back of supine, and all she does is look. Doesn't move her eyes, nothing. The mother has to feed her with a eyedropper to keep her alive. So 3 months later, no apparent being well. Nothing apparent that's improving. But the mother looked at me and said, you know, I'm getting discouraged. I said, what for? She said, look, the child is still the same. I said, I don't know what you're getting discouraged about, but I'm not discouraged. She looked at me, she said, you're not discouraged? I said, no. All right, I'll keep coming. You've got to have the courage of your conviction. Well, anyway, about 4 or 5 weeks later, this child was on her back, and I was about to serve the cervicals. All of a sudden, I noticed she started moving her eyes, yeah? But she never did. The mother looked, and the mother's over on my left side of the table. I'm in the back of it. And she looked at the mother and she said, Mom, Mom. Think of that, huh? After about 5 months. So, what a commotion. I had all to do to finish this poor child. The mother came over, picked my hand and kissed it. She got on her knees and said, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. I said, oh, lady, I'm not Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. And finally I got disgusted. I said, if that's what you want to think, let her. But anyway, about 2 or 3 years later, this kid was walking all over the place. The only thing she had that was an impediment was her speech. So I recommended her to a speech therapist. She got well, but she kept coming for adjustments. And then, like all things, you know, they disappear. So one day, maybe about 10 or 12 years later, I got a phone call. And the mother called me. She said, you remember me? And she told me the name. I said, how can I forget? And I said, how is little Mary? Oh, she wants to talk to you. I said, fine. And so girl talked to me. She said, Mommy and I like to come and see you. I said, fine. So they came to see me. She brought me a bottle of high-frequency stuff. And she said, the real reason I'm here is I'm getting married. And I want you to come. I said, I looked at it, I said, oh, that night I can't, but I could make the church wedding. Oh, she said, that will be fine. So I got into the church, and this big nave is here, and I'm at the end. And finally, she's starting to walk down, and she's looking straight ahead. Get down to the altar, and all the ceremonies go on. Turn around, and she's walking up the aisle, and everybody's saying hello to her, and holding on to her husband. All of a sudden, she sees me. I'm way at the back. I want to get out of there as fast as I can. She left her husband and ran to me and hugged me. She said, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And her husband came over and said, what's going on over here? What's going on over here? So she finally explained, this is the doctor that made me better. So, you know, seeing that girl running, leaving a brand new husband. You know that ad of MasterCard? Some things can't be bought, but others can. And this you cannot buy. This is the joy you get. I want you all to feel this. Don't wait until you get outside. Do it right in this damnable school you're in. Let the school sense what you're doing. And if you do it in there, that school has to change for the better. You understand? You're leaving your seeds in there. So, for the sake of the spirit of each of us and each person out there, do your job. You need help, you'll get help. Ask for help. You know, the knock, and I shall come and sup with you. But if you don't ask for help, you'll never get it. I ask for help. Don't beg. They don't want you to beg. Don't thank them. They don't want you to thank them. All they want to do, the spiritual people, is to help you advance so you can make other people advance, because when we advance and other people advance, you know what? They advance. Yeah? So it's a continuous cycle. Ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. I'll say it once more. Ask and you shall receive. And thank you.